All right, we're here with Defensive Coordinator Mike Furlong. Coach, you've been doing this a long time now. What are these first few days like, and what do you look for in your defense going into a season?
Yeah, it's similar year after year. You know, you want to go a little faster and be a little more ahead of things, but especially with the freshmen, you got to pace what you're doing and make sure they can keep up. A little different than spring practice, where you got all veteran guys back. You can go at a little quicker pace when you get into spring. You got to slow it down and make sure you cover things from step one and not try to jump ahead 2 or 3 steps before you do that. But mostly we're just looking to evaluate our kids' athleticism, see what kind of shape they were in, and get the basic things taught and installed, so you've got a foundation to move forward with down the road.
Now, when you're working with some of those older guys, I've heard you in practice talk about today is step 1, tomorrow is step 2. There's a tendency to try to jump right to game 1.
Yes.
Or week 1. How do you try to keep them in check, and how do you try to bring the younger guys along that are learning?
Well, I'm fortunate this year that at my position, I don't have a ton of older guys. Caleb Slaughter, Enrique Delgado are really the only 2 guys that have played a lot that are back from last year. So I can slow it down a little bit easier than maybe I could a few other years. But again, you just, hey, this is day 1, this is what we're doing. They start asking questions about, hey, coach, can we do this or can we do that because we did it last year or we did it whatever. No, this is what we're doing today. Stick with the plan, get that down, show me you've got the basics right, and then when the basics are handled, then we move forward from there.
And now working with Gerald Toney, one of the other coaches, you coached him, you've coached
Yep.
with him for
Yep.
2.5 decades,
Yep.
even more.
Yeah.
What's that like, that chemistry like, knowing you've got people that you trust now and that you've been coaching with?
Yeah, it's huge. You know, him and I, you know, sometimes we kind of have our own language, you know, of things that, corrections that need to be made. Him and I can make them in the middle of practice without having to get on the board and talk about it for 20 minutes. Hey, we're going to do this. This didn't look right. Let's fix it this way. So it allows us to make adjustments, and it allows us to coach all the kids, you know, as opposed to just, well, let me check with the linebacker coach, or let me check with this guy. It's just him and I, and we bang it out, and we're able to communicate what we need to do. And most of your corrections are coverage oriented. So we can fix that pretty quick in the middle of a practice if we have something that doesn't look right. And we're usually on the same page with everything, so I can tell the weak side safety, hey, you should do this or this, and then he can focus on one side of the field, I focus on the other side. So it's great, and like I say, we don't have to, we've had these conversations so many times, we don't need to keep going over and over.
Kind of start from the back, I guess, and start from that secondary. One major subtraction just from graduation, but how have you kind of tried to fill in and you know, I know Coach Juan used the portal to try
Yep.
to fill some holes on defense. Kind of talk about some of those things, but focus on the secondary.
Yeah, well, we're real fortunate at the corners. We've got 3 really veteran experienced kids in Obi, Sterling Barr, and McPherson. So we've got 3 kids that are all 5th-year seniors and been through it. So we're really good there. We're inexperienced on the inside at the safety position. So Maurice Beverly, Caleb Brown coming back, who have played for us. Not full seasons, but guys that are with us, and we feel good about who they are. And then we went into the portal to look for a few kids. And we've got a couple transfer kids that we really think are going to make a difference for us. And then we've developed some of our younger kids where they're coming around, and we feel real good about their progressions and where they're going to be as backups. And so we may not be deep, but we think we've got 2 across the board that we can play in the PSAC and win with. And if the portal kids, we got a transfer from Maryland, transfer from Temple, we got those guys stepping in here. If they do what we think they do and they're special, they've played at a higher level, they seem to really understand how to practice and do that. So if they can fill that void for us, we can be pretty good back there.
And now some of those Division I transfers, like you mentioned, are they pushing, and do they always feel like Do you want that in practice? I'm sure you do.
Yeah. We're putting them in the fire, right away. It's not like you go to fourth team and earn your way. We brought them here for a reason, so we're working them with the ones and twos right from the get-go. And if they screw it up, then they'll get pushed down to 3 and 4. But we're going to give them the chance to be ones and twos and go against our better kids and show us that they can play right away, because that's what we need to see. We don't need to see those guys. Can they outperform freshmen? They need to outperform our best receivers. And if they can do that, then we know they can play, and we'll teach them the scheme and get those things right.
And I'll kind of talk about the linebackers. It seems like Caleb Slaughter is going to slide into the middle to fill that void. But, is it a 2 linebacker, 3 linebacker? Do you like that roving?
Yeah, we're going to be very multiple like we've been. We'll be in some 2 linebacker looks. We'll be in some 3 linebacker looks. We may be in some 4 linebacker looks, depending on what we see. And that's been our history. We like personnel groupings and sub packages and things like that. So I think we'll be there. But I got a really good group, kind of similar. I got Caleb, Enrique coming back. Feel really good. They both played the Wolf position last year. We felt because of that experience, we'll move Slaughter to the MAC. Enrique's playing Wolf, and then we went into the portal. And got a transfer from Temple and a transfer from New Hampshire that are going to come in and play. And it's the same thing. They're getting thrown in the fire right now. We recruited a couple really good freshmen that we like. So I know the talent's there right now. Now it's just getting them to play at a higher level. And they've got much more responsibility. Caleb's been fortunate. He's been able to be the second fiddle to Jackson for a few years. And now he's got to be the main guy. I know he wants to be the main guy, and now he's got to prove he can handle that.
Is there pressure on someone like Caleb to be the next Ben Tonin or the next Ronald Williams or the next?
I hope not. Again, he has all the ability, and he could step up and be that guy. I hope he's not. He doesn't seem like he's putting that pressure on himself. I hope I'm not, because I don't feel that way. If he's just the best that Caleb Slaughter can be, he'll be an outstanding football player, and we'll be really pleased with the results at the end of the season.
And now the defensive line, kind of talk about some holes there to fill to graduation, but still some people coming back, so
yeah,
be a good mix up front.
Yeah, and that's one of the big things for us. If you look at where we are, we lost our top 3 sack players from last year in Jackson, Zach Liggett, and David Blay. We've got some good players, but taking those sack numbers and saying to the younger guys, you got to duplicate that. We got to get there, and that's what we got to find out. It may force us to be a little more of a pressure team to get those sacks and to get to the quarterback a little bit more than maybe we had to last year, where we could rush 3 or 4 and be real consistent that way. But we love what we have. AD is a really strong nose guard. Tommy Burns backing him up. Both those kids have played a lot of football for us, and we feel great about that. We've got Nate Desmond, Danny Hicks, Charlie Mininger. We got some guys that we feel really good about. We got a transfer in the mix coming in there too. So we think we've got some good players, but we probably don't have the depth that we've had the last few years. So health is going to be really, really important, because if we lose 1 or 2 guys, we're going to some freshmen. We got a couple really nice kids we brought in, and we like what we've seen the first couple days, but that's a lot to put on freshmen to expect them to play at that level for us to win and be successful at the level we want to.
And so who are some of those edge rushers, and do you think they take the pressure off the secondary in the passing game?
Yeah, it has to. It works hand in hand. When the secondary's good and they do their job and cover people up, now you got that extra second to get to the quarterback, and vice versa. When you're getting there a half second sooner, takes a lot of heat off the back end. But again, I think that combinations, Danny Hicks, Charlie Mininger, will be our edge guys early in the season. David Rush is a guy who's played a little bit for us. He's a little undersized, but he's quick off the edge, and that may be his specialty role, is to be the third down edge pass rusher. And then we need the linebackers. So Caleb Slaughter, the transfer Connor Noble, we think can be a pass rusher for us, and so he's playing, linebacker, but he may be the fourth D lineman in pass situations to kind of fill that void.
And now, what are your, overall expectations for this defense? Do you set them early on, or do you want to see how they develop?
No, we set it. I mean, I think, we've been a defense that we've been oriented on pass coverage and not allowing some big plays in the pass game, that kind of stuff, and daring people to run the ball on us a little bit more. And we've been successful with that. So sometimes our numbers in the run game are maybe a little higher, not crazy high, but a little higher than what some people, hey, you've got to keep them to under 100 yards and you've got to do that. We're a little more flexible, but I think we go into it saying if we can keep the other team under 100 yards rushing a game and we can keep them in that 150 to 200 yards passing the ball, statistically that's going to work out, and we focus a ton on third down. And that, if you look at our statistics probably over the last 10 years, our third down efficiency defensively has been 1 or 2 in the conference. We've been in the top 20 in the nation, a half dozen times in the last 10 years. So that's a big focus for what we want. And if the third down is right, usually the rest of it's working because we've got them to third down and we're winning on third, getting off the field.